Today, we are making a dish from the beautiful region of Cantabria in northern Spain. We're talking a very simple kidney bean stew. This dish is known in Cantabria as Alubias de Cantabria or caricos estofados. Now, this dish is not very popular outside of Spain. In fact, many Spaniards here have never even heard of it. But let me tell you, this dish is loaded with so many beautiful flavors. Like seriously, it's an explosion of goodness. It's very easy to make, and it's made with the most basic pantry staples, folks. This is what Spanish cuisine is all about. Making dishes that are very healthy, they're so simple to put together, and they pack some serious flavors. Really quick, before we get started, a shout out to one of my patrons, Mac Morford. Once again, Mac, thank you for being a patron of Spain on a Fork. You know how much I appreciate you. For the rest of you, if you're not with me on Patreon, consider becoming one. It helps me with ingredients and equipment to continue making videos like this. You'll find my Patreon link in the description box below and iCard above. For the first step of the recipe, we're going to boil some vegetables to create a broth, and we're also going to use the boiled vegetables in the recipe. I'm going to cut one small onion into large chunks and add it into a large stock pot. For the next vegetable, I'm going to grab an Italian sweet pepper and once again, cut it into large chunks. If you can't find these in your area, no big deal. You can substitute it for a regular green bell pepper. And once again, add it into the stock pot with the onions. And for the final vegetable to prepare, I'm going to cut one carrot into large pieces. It doesn't need to be peeled, but make sure you wash it beforehand. And I'm going to cut each piece of carrot right down the middle, that way they cook much faster. And add the carrots into the stock pot with the Italian green peppers and the onions. I'm going to add in some cold water into the stock pot. You want to go about ½ inch above the vegetables. And heat it with a high heat. While our vegetables are cooking in the stock pot, I'm going to grab a jar of red kidney beans. This is 400 grams, which equals 20 ounces or 2 cups of cooked beans. Add them into a sieve and rinse them under some cold running water to remove any of the preservatives. And I'm also going to grab 4 cloves of garlic and cut them into large chunks. Alright, let's move back to the stock pot. It's been 20 minutes since I turned on the heat here, and all these vegetables should be nice and tender. I'm going to remove the stock pot from the heat and drain everything into a sieve with a bowl underneath. I'm going to set the vegetables aside, that way they can cool off. And we're going to reserve this hot broth. We're going to be using this later on in the recipe. Once the vegetables are cool enough to handle, it's been a couple minutes, I'm going to add them into a tall plastic cylinder. You can also add them into a food processor. I'm going to add in a generous tablespoon of our kidney beans into the vegetables. A generous 2 tablespoons of our hot broth. And season it with a little sea salt. And using a handheld mixer, I'm going to mix this all together until we end up with a puree with no chunks in it. Okay, for the final step of the recipe, let's make our kidney bean stew. Using the same stock pot, I'm going to heat it with a medium heat and add in a generous 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. While the oil is heating, I'm going to reserve about 1.5 cups of the vegetable broth we made earlier. After heating the olive oil for 2 minutes on a medium heat, I'm going to add in our chunks of garlic and mix them around with that extra virgin olive oil. You want to mix this continuously, that way the garlics don't burn and they all cook evenly. About 2 minutes after adding the garlics into the pan and they're developing a light golden color, you don't want to overcook them, otherwise they get a bitter flavor. I'm going to add in our drained kidney beans into the stock pot, our vegetable puree, a generous teaspoon of sweet smoked Spanish paprika, ½ a teaspoon of cumin powder, and season everything with sea salt and freshly cracked black pepper. And we're going to mix this all together until all the ingredients are well combined. Once everything's well mixed, I'm going to add in the 1.5 cups of vegetable broth that we have reserved. Now this stew is typically served as a thick stew. If you want to have more of a soup texture, add in 2.5 cups of the vegetable broth. And give it a gentle mix, that way all the ingredients are evenly distributed. And we're going to simmer this on a medium heat for about 10 minutes. This is enough time for all these flavors to come together. After simmering our kidney bean stew for about 10 minutes, this looks like it's ready to go. That broth has really thickened up thanks to that vegetable puree. I'm going to remove the stock pot from the heat. Add some into a serving bowl. And sprinkle it with some freshly chopped parsley. Check it out, our Alubias de Cantabria are done. Such a beautiful dish, so many great aromas coming out of this. Let's give it a try and see how it tastes. This dish, I seriously cannot wait to try. It smells fabulous. Here we go. It just hits you. Bam! So many flavors. That sweet smoked Spanish paprika combined with that cumin is so good. And those vegetables that we pureed, it gives this stew so much texture, it makes it so hearty. You saw this so easy to make, truly one of the best stews from Spain, a very unknown recipe. Now you know how to make it at home, and it's the perfect dish right now with the cold weather that's coming to warm your soul. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button, leave me a comment below, and if you're not subscribed, smash that subscribe button. Till the next time, hasta luego.